Okay, hey there everybody. Thank you for coming out to the 2019 JET program info session at the Tennessee Language Center. Let's introduce who we have here today. My name is John Gale. I teach Japanese here. I was on the JET program in Kagawa Prefecture, which is the red dot. Anybody here heard of Kagawa Prefecture? Yeah, why have you heard about it, young man?
I was also a JET in Kagawa Prefecture.
Yeah.
Speak down to the microphone. And somebody maybe on the internet watching.
Yeah. Could you introduce yourself? Or do you...
My name's Ty. I was a JET from 2007 until 2010, junior high school and elementary school.
Yeah. We also have another JET alum with us.
Hello.
Yeah.
My name's Amanda. I was in Ehime Prefecture, which is the yellow dot there, another Shikoku kid.
Yeah.
I was on the program from 2015 to 2016, just 1 year.
So you know what it's like to use Facebook and Netflix and those type of things?
I'm familiar with the social medias.
With the social medias, yeah. So the red dot, the yellow dot, and the purple dot. We have a special guest with us today who I'm really excited to be here.
My name is Claire. I will be leaving August 3rd for my very first year in Hiroshima Prefecture.
All right, awesome. So we have, this is what I love about this session is we have someone who's about to leave on the program, who just went through the application process successfully. A little bit about the center real quick. We do teach language classes here. You can go to our website to register for Japanese. Dirk-san was one of our students. How many of the classes have you taken here?
Only two. I had to take a break because of financial reasons,
but that's okay. You took two classes here. So if you look, our next term is July 8th through September 16th. That means you could get formal Japanese language training before the next application period here at the Language Center. We also offer a Teaching English as a Second Language certification program, which Claire, you've been through, right? Could you tell us a little bit about your experience?
I did the summer intensive program and I really enjoyed it. I feel like I got good teaching experience and I was able to get a lot of different perspectives from different people and different teachers who had taught English as well.
Okay, and we were talking before, this is your second time applying for the JET program, right? So could you tell us a little bit about the first time and the second time and what changed between that? The
first time I went into it with just putting on my application what I had done over the years. Like I had done Big Brothers Big Sisters, but that was really the only volunteer work that I could put on my application. The second time around I was able to put my TESOL certification on there, which I got specifically for this program. I was able to put down actual teaching experience that I'd gotten in the school system. And as far as my recommendations went, the first time around, one of my recommendations I'd only known one of the professors who recommended probably a month or two. The second time around, I had known her for over a year, so I think she was able to probably write a much better recommendation the second time around as well.
Yeah, we were talking about that, how important the recommendations are, and the length of time you know your recommender, and also the relationship, what they've seen you do is really important, which we can get to. A little bit, our TESOL program costs $2,595, which sounds like quite a lot of money. I mean, it is. But this program, did you look at other teaching English programs, like online modules and stuff like that, or you knew?
Yes, I really wanted something like in person though. And one thing that I liked about this program was each Saturday I actually taught, and then my teachers would critique my teaching abilities, let me know what I needed to work on. And I just didn't really find other programs so much, especially like just online programs where I was able to get that.
Right.
And it was so short. You know, I got 180 hours
of teaching.
Or 130, over 100 hours. In 4 weeks.
And that's one thing the JET application does now is if you have a TESOL or TEFL certification, it'll ask you less than 100 hours or more than 100 hours. So this is one of those more than 100 hour programs. Did you get any of the discounts?
No.
Okay, there are some opportunities for discounts if you go to an info session or register early. In this case, our next TESOL session begins August 13th, but if you register by July 2nd, you can save $250, or you can save $100 if you come to an info session. So there's $350 of discounts you could get before our next session. Okay, so about the JET program. Let me tell you, what I don't want to do is go through this PowerPoint and just lecture like I used to do when I was a JET coordinator. Or Ty, I don't know if you want to do that either. We've got our attendees here. One came all the way from Atlanta. So what I want to do is get your questions answered. Like get the information you want to know. So what is it you guys want to know about? Why did you come here today?
Well, I wanted to find out more like what the day-to-day stuff is with doing the JET program. I understand it's like being like a teaching assistant for the most part.
Yeah.
And then mostly also about the application process.
Okay.
I mean, I'm kind of more concerned with the application process. I'm kind of dead set on this, but
Okay.
I would like to, I mean, I have a good idea of what I'd be up against if I did get accepted, but you know, learning more isn't all, you know, is a good thing. So
Okay.
I'll just kind of came to, since I am dead set on it, to just kind of learn more stuff.
So it sounds like the application process is something really important to you guys. That's towards the end of the presentation. So how do we want to roll with this? You guys know that the JET program is a Japanese government program
Yes.
run by the Japanese government. Okay. We see in the name, a lot of people go to teach English, but what's sort of the more important thing about JET as compared to just being an English teacher?
It's also a cultural exchange, if
Yeah.
I gathered more so.
That's what the E stands for, exchange. So I feel like JET exists at this higher level than just teaching English in Japan. Do you alumni, do you guys feel that way? Or agree? Disagree?
Yes. Agreed.
Agree?
I left my town with a like certified ambassador certificate.
Oh.
Kind of.
So that's a bit about it. And again, you guys, if you got questions, please throw up the hands, shout them out. We're here for you guys, the applicants. I'll just use this as a guide. Here's some of the JET program numbers. I went towards the peak. So you see it like rose and then it peaked and it sort of dipped a bit and now it's going back up leading into the 2020 Olympics in terms of how many people are accepted to the program. Anything about this that you want to ask about or comment about?
What happened?
What happened?
Yeah, like what did they just want to sponsor less?
Well, if you look at the years, we've got 2007 is a huge dip. That's sort of the start of the Great Global Recession. So I think that was part of it. In 2009, there were also some political shifts in Japan. Were you there, Ty, at that time when the
I was, yeah.
political spectrum changed? And did you see that have effect? I mean, I read about it, but maybe you actually saw it.
Yeah, I think that politically, the JET program started to be questioned for its return on investment for the Japanese taxpayer.
Okay.
It's a really expensive program to run, and so it was just about proving that it was achieving its goals. There's the diplomatic, the grassroots internationalization part that it does a really good job of, but then there was some question about whether it was worth spending all that money on the teachers in the school system. It was something that they absolutely needed. And so there was a bit of a decrease in numbers for a while. And I think in large part with the Olympics coming up and this kind of push to open Japan up to the world, they realized that they in fact need more more foreigners over there helping prepare. And so they've started to build it back up over the last few years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know, how's the political landscape there now? Are they kind of...
It shifted back. So if you're familiar with Japanese politics, do you know the Liberal Democratic Party?
No.
That's the current Prime Minister Abe, that's his party. He was Prime Minister in the late 2000s. When I was a JET in 2006, he became Prime Minister. Then it was about 2009, the Democratic Party, their opposition party, was elected into power. And like Ty said, like budget and spending were big focuses of their campaigns. Then we see in 2011, that was the great earthquake and tsunami. After that happened and people were not so happy with the government's response, the political wind shifted back to the LDP, the Liberal Democratic Party, and Abe's prime minister. And so the political winds went back, and like Ty said, going into the Olympics, Abe's big on Abenomics and internationalization for the Olympics. So I think that's where we're seeing a lot of the increase.
And you notice that in that graph, it only goes to 2015.
Yeah.
But right now we're up above 5,500, so it has increased quite a bit.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's about on par with the level it was in 2005?
No, that was 700 more jets.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, in 2005.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's about that level right now?
Yep.
Okay.
So do you expect like with the 2020, like maybe like a 10%, 15% increase because of the Olympics, possibly?
I can't put a number to it really, but
Yeah, I'd heard from someone in the government that they were targeting 6,000 by 2020, but I'm not sure if they're actually going to hit that, or if that's a hard target, or just kind of a goal that they set for their organization.
yeah. The record again is 2002, 6,273. So even if that is the goal of 6,000, it's still a few hundred below the peak in 2002.
But I think, the thing to keep in mind, we're still sending over 1,000 Americans a year. So there are a lot of positions on the JET program that open up. So it's definitely something that, for the right applicant, there's plenty of positions. There's not.
Yeah. That's what I feel about JET versus like the MEXT scholarships, which we both worked on. Like, I feel like if you're a good person and have the legitimate interest in Japan, you've got a shot at JET. Maybe if it takes you 2 or 3 times applying, other programs like scholarship programs can be a lot more competitive, like where you just really don't stand a chance. All right, anything else?
Now, what's like usually the average age?
Average age, I don't know. Like 20s and 30s is the age
Okay,
group.
so like there's consistently people in the upper 20s, low 30s that go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the average is probably around 24, 25 as far as people that we're sending. Around half the folks are coming right out of school, and then the rest are a year out all the way up into their 30s.
I had quite a few friends who were like 35
I was gonna say,
when I was
there's
over there.
quite a few older ALTs around.
Yeah. There's one YouTuber who does like a series about that, like being an older jet in Japan. I forgot his name. Sorry, YouTuber. Anything else we'd like to say about this? Good discussion. Nope. Moving on. The JET program is, I think we know this, a paid full-time job, not a study abroad. I know I've promoted at study abroad fairs and stuff, but it's not a study abroad. It is a job, so it is like getting accepted for a job. Anything on this board that you guys want to talk about? I like that. Fun and exciting at times and difficult at times. Amanda, you're laughing. What is that? I mean, I was laughing too.
It's a really weird way to say it. You're gonna have a great time.
Yeah.
A terrible time.
Well, I think we've done that where we, like in recruiting sessions, all we do is talk about the positive things. And then people get over there and then experience real culture shock and real homesickness and real loneliness. And then even though they've had the training that JET gives, maybe that wasn't part of their expectation. So
Maybe this says something about my personality, but I love to throw the harsh realities in people's faces, talking about going abroad at all. I'm like, hey, it's not gonna be all fun. There's a lot of difficulties that come living in a foreign country. And Japan is like a pretty conservative, like, different country compared to the US. So there will be some things that you're like, wow, this is stupid.
yeah. What I love what they did, I don't know if they did it in Kagawa for you, Ty, but when we first got there, they had us like write like our goals and like why we'd come to Japan and all this, and they did like a time capsule. And then like a year later at like the Renewers Conference, like honestly like a solid 12 months later, they gave that to us and are like, look what you wrote. And like, I was just so embarrassed by what I wrote on there. I had like a checklist of all the Final Fantasy games I wanted to buy and play. And I essentially bought them all, but then like none of that was important anymore. Like none of that mattered. Like none of that had anything to do with my day-to-day life.
You grew up.
I grew up in a way. Like I bought all the games like within a month, and then I'm like, okay, like I work as a teacher now. Like I have a good life here. That's not all about Final Fantasy and anime. Anything else? You guys got questions or anything you would like to add for this?
I mean, I had a question coming in, but
Yeah,
I don't know when's the best time.
you can
It's
ask
more-
it anytime.
I mean, it's more about like once you're in the classroom.
Once you're in the classroom, I think we've got like a slide for
Okay,
ALT.
yeah.
Position, ALT, once you're in the classroom. What's your question about once you're in the classroom?
Okay, yeah. So it was one of the Abroad in Japan's older videos, but he's talked about how once you're over there, like one of your first days is like you have to make sort of a presentation about yourself or something
Yeah.
like that. Okay.
Jiko Shokai, self-introduction.
Yeah. So yeah, that was an interesting concept, and he kind of explained whatever it was in his video. But I was kind of hoping to hear some about that if y'all had
Okay.
to do one.
We all had to do one, right? Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty universal. I didn't have a lot of AV or tech because I was 2003. And what we did is we made like a photocopy of my passport and blotted out all the sensitive information. And then we like blew it up on this huge sheet of paper and then like put in also like blanks, like country and things like that were blank. And then so when I gave my introduction, like, I'm John, I'm from America, the students had to fill in the blanks that were on the passport. Yeah, so that was my Jiko Shokai class.
I was able to do a PowerPoint,
Yeah,
but then it was just like on like a little screen in the corner, so it wasn't. But, so I just did photos, went through photos. But I did 9 schools, so I had to just do that over and over again.
Yeah,
Okay. So yeah, that was going to be a follow up. You have to do that for like every class you.
Generally, the first time you go into a class, like if those students have never seen you before,
Okay.
then they'll ask you to do that self-introduction.
And if
Yeah.
you're there for multiple years, do you do it at the beginning of every year?
anytime there's a new class.
Okay,
Like,
so
like
every
my
new
base
class.
school was a junior high school. So they had the equivalent of what we call 7th, 8th, and 9th grades, but they called them first years, second years, third years. Okay, so you've got 3 school years, and each year had 6 homeroom classes, okay? And each homeroom class has 35, 40 kids in it. So what you're doing, like I said, for the first years, I've got to give my self-introduction 6 times to all those first year classes.
Yeah.
And their level's lower, so I have to dumb it down. Then when I go to the second year classes, maybe I can bump up the difficulty a little bit, but I've still got to do it 6 times again
Okay.
because there's 6 homeroom classes in second year. And then if I get a chance, third years, I do the same thing, but I make the material more difficult because they're the most advanced.
Okay.
So what's that? 6 times 3? That's how many times
18.
I would have to do it at my base school. Yeah.
Okay.
And I would say, just advice, this is I think, particularly helpful for Claire here, is that when you get ready to go over there, like take photos of kind of everyday life here before you go. And you might have already thought about this. I had like one photo of my house that I grew up in. I had like one photo of my parents, but like kids are asking these kind of things, like, oh, they'd be great visual aids, and suddenly you're on the other side of the world and like you don't have them. I was there before the iPhone, so it's a little bit easier now to ask your mom to snap the photo for you and send it your way. But you know, before you get over there, maybe take some photos of stuff around your town. You might want to think about just printing them off and bringing a binder with the printouts in it so that you can hold it up in front of the class to show the kids. Because even if your school, your primary school, is tech savvy, if you end up getting asked to go bounce around and do other like community groups or other schools, it's best not to be reliant on technology over there.
Yeah.
It's kind of odd to say because everyone thinks Japan is cutting edge of tech, and it is in some ways. But when you're in the countryside going to these schools, it isn't. And so just having that binder to take with you can make it really easy. By the time you've done one of those little presentations, you'll have it down pat. So
Yeah. Did they flip out over the picture of your house?
it was very big. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the pictures of my family, they flipped out about that. They're like, "Mina da kai, everybody's so big." That's what they would say over and over again. And my brother is 11 months younger than me, but he's about half an inch taller than me. And people would look at him and they'd think, "Oh, he's the older brother," because it's different words in Japanese.
Yeah.
And so then for elementary schools especially, I'd be like, all right, who thinks he's my older brother? And they all raise their hands. They're like, who thinks he's my younger brother? Maybe like 1 or 2 raise my hands. They're like, who thinks he's my younger sister? And then they all just like start laughing. Like it's stupid stuff like that, but they get such a kick out of it. And it really brings a lot of energy to the classroom when the ALT shows up.
Alright.
So I've also
Yeah.
heard a few of you mention this, but do y'all bounce around different schools consistently, or is that just like maybe if you're like in a more quieter part of the country?
I had 2 schools. How many did you have?
9.
9 schools? Ty?
So I had the one base school, a junior high that I went to every day, and then I had 6 elementary schools that all fed into that junior high.
Okay.
So on the Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, I would go, to those different schools. So
I corrected.
total,
I
I
had,
had 7 schools, but
yeah.
there was one that I went to every single day.
I had 2 junior highs and 1 elementary school, so I guess I should say 3. Were you all elementary or junior highs or
2
what?
junior high.
2 junior highs and 7 elementary schools?
Do you know what your setup's going to be at?
They've mentioned high school, but I don't know how many schools I'll have or anything yet.
Which high school you like to only have one?
Yeah.
Kind of depends on. I mean, the high schools are kind of fewer and far in between. So, if you're in a pretty dense city area, then it's possibly quite a few. But
And I could be wrong. I've really not gotten a lot of
Well,
information.
Like with every situation is different. Our friend Cameron was only at 1 elementary school with another ALT who was only at that other elementary school. So this one elementary school had 2 full-time ALTs at it all the time. They didn't go to any other schools. Another friend of ours, Gabrielle, she went in 2 years on the JET program. She went to 26 different schools in 2 years. So you can see there's quite a huge spectrum and everything in between. Other questions, comments? Because I think we understand what an ALT is. We've been talking about it. I don't need to read the slide to you, but I want to get the information to you that you want to hear. Anything else? We'll move on. What else do we have? The ALT is the assistant language teacher. And so what's important to understand is they work with a Japanese teacher of English a lot of the time, which we call JTEs. Were you guys familiar with that? That you're basically team teaching with a Japanese person. And you've got quite the spectrum of JTEs as well. I would have one who would say, Johnsensei, I just need you to come the first 15 minutes of class and read this out of the textbook and then get out. And then I said, hey, let me stay, let me hand out papers or help students or whatever. So then I got to stay. I had another JTE who would just hand me a lesson plan and be like, do it. Like, this is what you do. When you see your time on that lesson plan, you do that. And then my other JTE who I had a great relationship with, he'd be like, Johnsensei, I'm hungover. It's all you today. And so you just have to show up in the class and make it happen. So those were like some of the JTEs I worked with. What situations did you guys have that maybe showed that spectrum?
I had a lot of JTs that were really good. So they'd been used to working with an ALT. They've been in the same school for a while. Now they rotate teachers periodically. It's something you have to take in mind. Your Japanese teacher might have been at that school for years, or that might be their first year as well, and they might have no idea what to expect. So
Yeah.
luckily, a lot of my teachers had been there for a while. They were used to working with an ALT, so they kind of already had a plan. I just showed up and filled in the little role. And then I had one elementary school that was kind of revamping their English programs, so we did a lot of like Kaizen meetings to evaluate how effective we were and stuff like that. So it was really involved. But
Kaizen means continuous improvement.
and then the rest of it was just like elementary schools, so the teachers didn't speak any English, so we're just
That's the thing about elementary school.
winging it.
Yeah. When I'd go to elementary school, it was like 100% me because the teacher's just the 4th grade teacher. They're not an English teacher necessarily.
And I've heard some Jets who get nervous about that suddenly they're in charge of the curriculum, but it's when you're at the elementary school, like the kids just want to
Climb on you.
climb on you, interact in English. There aren't to the degree that there are in junior high and high school, there isn't all this pressure for like English tests. So really there is a bit more relaxed curriculum and you can have a lot more fun with it. So elementary schools are great, even when you're like in charge of the curriculum, even if you don't feel like you're really prepared to be in charge of the curriculum. I think there's something to be said just for giving the kids this interaction with a native English speaker, with someone from a different country who looks different than themselves because particularly in the countryside, they're all most likely going to look Japanese. So that give them that opportunity to.
So I take it like the elementary school, it's more of a focus on the cultural aspects of things than the language.
And to make English fun so that when they get to junior high and actually have to study for a test and a textbook,
They'll be properly disappointed.
Yeah. They're not dragging their feet as
They are
much.
studying English formally in elementary schools now. They didn't used to, but they are now. The 5th and 6th graders only.
But do you still, is it still test focused, or are there still a lot of games and songs?
It's still a lot of games.
Yeah.
There's just a book that kind
They
of
just have a book now.
that restrains your ability to play the game that you want to play.
It's really confusing games that don't make any sense. You and the teacher trying to figure them out.
What would you say, so as far as what an ALT does,
Uh-huh.
it might be helpful if anyone's listening and for you guys, because you're asking kind of like a day in the life. I'll tell you, like my average day, I mean, it differed, but for instance, on the Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would generally go into my junior high school, clock in. There would be kind of a homeroom meeting that I didn't actually need to participate in. So I would be in the teacher room. And in the Japanese schools, for the most part, you have a large room with a bunch of desks at it. There's no dividers, there's no cubicles, at least in the schools that I went to.
Yeah.
So you have your designated desk, and right across from you, facing you, is another teacher with their designated desk, and either side of you, the same thing. Not a lot of privacy, but that's where you set up your computer and you plan your lessons and you get ready for the day. So I'd get in, get my computer booted up, get all ready. In the morning there would be 4 class periods, and I would teach between 2 and 3 of those, I'd say, on an average morning. You'd know the classes that you're going to teach a couple weeks ahead of time. So I teach those classes. You guys didn't know that?
No.
I would teach those classes and then have lunch with the kids. I was at a junior high, so they would have lunch in the classroom, so they would have me rotate. I would spend 1 week with each classroom. In each grade, there were about 15 different classrooms at my school, so I'd rotate between all of those. And then after lunch, I would typically, if the elementary school was close enough, I'd hop on my bike, I'd bike over to the elementary school, and I'd teach between 1 and 2 classes there, usually in a gym. So we'd all go in the gym, I would have control over the lesson. Usually, if it wasn't summer, there would be a physical kind of running component, because the kids love to do that. If it was summer, it was really hot, and we were just gonna sit there and try not to move at all. And then my day would be done. I'd be done by 4 o'clock every day. I'd be home, the sun, plenty of time with the sun up still to go on bicycle rides, or go meet up with friends to kind of explore and kind of get to know the town, relax. So it was a pretty, I think, low stress. There's the stress of living in a foreign culture, but at least for me, in the job setting, it was a fairly low stress kind of existence. Do either of you guys have a day that you'd like to summarize?
I had to move around a lot, but when I was at my junior high schools, you said you had notice of how many classes you would teach. I would come in, sometimes it would be like maximum 3 or 4, but there were some days I'd come in and you're teaching 1 class, or you're not teaching any classes.
Yeah, when they have tests,
Just here,
sit
you're at your desk studying Japanese.
When I said I knew what classes I was going to be teaching, I knew what classes I was scheduled to teach. And sometimes that would fluctuate. Like sometimes the teachers would say, like, we don't need you today, so I would just suddenly have the whole day free. Or, sometimes a teacher who would frequently cancel their classes on me would be like, oh yeah, come with me today. And it would be a class that you didn't know you were taking, and it said that it was a free period for you. And you just kind of roll with it. I think a big part of the JET program is the adaptability, kind of rolling with.
Flexible.
Yeah, just being flexible.
I had a kind of a unique situation because our town had an international association. So when I was, did you sit with your board of education or in the office at all?
Did I?
Or did you just usually went to your schools?
I just went to my schools. I did do stuff with the city's international division, but that was only every couple months.
Some people actually have to go into the BOE offices.
I had to.
I had to a
Responsible.
lot, but we didn't sit with the BOE. We had, our international association had its own office with 4 people, so the CIR, like an accountant or something, and 2 ALTs. I spent a lot of time just in that office, and so I would maybe come in office in the morning, go to one elementary school, come back for the meeting with the afternoons. It's kind of like
Oh, that's fun.
office job.
Yeah. Did you all ever have to submit paperwork to your BOEs? Because what I was saying, like on Monday, I would get this sheet of paper that was like a 5x5 matrix of blocks. So it represented 5 days in the week, and our school had 5 periods in a day. and they would write what class I had on there. And really like 80% of the time, I would go to those classes, but then the rest of the time, they'd be like, Johnsensei, are you free next period? Let's go to class 2, 3, or whatever. So I would teach like 4 and 5 classes a day at my base school, because it was a big school, like 800 kids. But we had to like turn that sheet of paper into the Board of Education, so that's why I had that. Then at my alternate school, there's only like 200 kids, so I'd only have like 2 classes a day, but the same situation. All right, is that interesting? Does that help you guys get a bit of the perspective?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about that? So I think there's still more slides. The other things, I like it, speech contest. Johnsensei was famous for speech contests. How many speech contest kids did you have in your time on JET, do you think, Amanda?
Well,
Between all those 9
we
schools?
split them between the two. the
2 ALTs, yeah.
So I had probably like 6.
6. Do you remember how many
I
you
had
had?
12, and one of them went all the way to Tokyo for
Yeah.
the nationals in the speech contest.
I had-
Mostly because she was brilliant, not because I was a great coach. But
I had 26 speech contest students in 3 years, and every year I had a kid go to Tokyo. So like for me, like not just the classroom, but like coaching them and translating their speeches. And I would like make a recording of the speech, like all the way through. Then I'd make it 1 sentence at a time. Then I would record it 1 word at a time. My father owns a toy store, and like just make him repeat it 1 word at a time. So especially during the summer when we didn't have classes, like speech contest was like, I was still working full time on getting kids ready for speech contest.
And I thought for me, the speech contest was working with those kids was one of the highlights.
Yeah, it's so
Because
much fun.
When you're in the classroom, you teach a bunch of kids, you don't really make a strong connection with any of the kids in the classrooms. I mean, there's like the goofball kid that like sticks in your mind and then you joke around with in the hallway and stuff like that. But for the most part, the kids, they're all wearing uniforms with like 4 allowed hairstyles, nails that blend together. But by doing the speech contest, because you're spending a lot of time one-on-one with individual students, that's when you really start to develop like a bit of a relationship with them and then learn about the kids. And in between doing rounds of practice on the speech, you can just ask questions, kind of carry on basic conversations and kind of learn about them, share your life. So I think that's a highlight of the JET experience.
So I take it that's something that fills up most of like the off periods during the schools is like activities like the speech contest or any other like kind of extracurricular activities related to English, like say during the summer months.
During the summer is definitely speech contest.
Is there anything else that goes on, or is it just mainly that?
We had several speech contests throughout the year. Most of them are in the summer. When they get involved in like their field day or their sports day, you may do something like I would run in the races for that. And they would like tell me, the teachers would tell me ahead of time, Johnsensei, you're going to run in the relay race during sports day. Your school may have a cultural festival at some point, and since you're there as like the cultural ambassador, you'll probably have a big part in the culture festival. What other events? I know usually like when they have testing, like midterm testing, you don't teach a lot of classes. So those are times when I'd be at my desk all day studying Japanese.
Now, when you're on the JET program, you do most people get about 20 days of PTO.
Yeah.
And so it also, it's not like being a teacher here where they have the summer off, they have a big chunk of the summer off where they're not even expected to go into to work. You're expected, in most cases, for most, I think, JET positions, you're expected to go into work every day unless you're taking time off. And you would try to take that paid time off when there was summer break and they weren't needing you, or for instance, my school during the exams, there was nothing really for me to do. Or in the lead up to, sports day, a lot of classes would be canceled. And so those could be good times to be like, I'll take like a long weekend. You check with your school, you make sure that you're not going to be missing anything important.
The choir festival, that's another one where a lot of classes get canceled, and it's nothing to do with English. It's like each homeroom class has to give a choral performance in front of the school, and so again, you're not really.
And after
they're
your
practicing
first year,
for
you
that,
learn this stuff and you have it jotted down in your calendar, like choir, and you're like, there's going to be lots of free time. So if I see a cheap plane ticket to Thailand over that period, I'll just broach the subject with my principal, see if I can slip out.
Yeah. That's it. I think there's one more slide about ALT. We've talked about a lot of this outside the classroom. I had, Japan's population is declining. So even in 2000, in the mid 2000s, that was still the situation. And my school had a lot of empty classrooms because of that. Like the school was maybe built for 1,000 kids and there were only 800 there. So we basically just commandeered one of those empty classrooms and made it an English classroom. And we would have special English classes there. I would be there after lunch. They had a break, so kids could come during the break, and I had like American comic books and stuff that they could look at and a bunch of games, and they could talk to me. And my first time back to the States, I bought, you guys know Shonen Jump?
Mm-hmm.
You know what that is? Like the manga magazine? They had that at Kroger at the supermarket in America, and I bought that. I like the English version, the American version, and they like flipped out over that. Like kids would be in these huge clusters looking at that during the breaks in the English classroom. So that's something you can do.
So you're saying having a library of English manga would be a benefit?
Yeah, but you only need one book because
Oh.
they're going to look at it a couple times and get bored with it.
Oh.
And then another one is basically the same thing. But they flipped out about that. Okay. Talked about that. CIRs, are you guys familiar with the CIR position? Do we have a CIR this year?
Yeah, there's one.
One? You have one CIR? So that kind of shows you the ratio. Like only about 10% of JETs are CIRs. You worked with one, you said, Amanda, in your office, your international office. What did they do?
Well, she had been there for 12 years
Oh, wow.
and was just hired directly on by the.
Oh, okay, so she wasn't a JET CIR.
She started out as a JET CIR.
Oh, she did? She started out as a JET CIR?
She's from Germany.
Okay. So this position requires a high Japanese ability. Usually about the JLPT level N2 is probably about the minimum. So if there's any questions or comments, we can talk about that, but if not, I'll move on. Anything?
One question that I had as far as ALT is,
Yeah.
how many, what was your proficiency with Japanese when you all first went over your first year? Like, how proficient?
I was higher than average JET. I don't know. I was like higher than average ability, so.
Yeah, I think I remember your story because they put you kind of in a rural area.
They put me in a rough school
Yeah.
because the schools can make requests, and they're like, for this rough school with the disadvantaged background kids, we need someone with a high Japanese ability. So I got placed there. In terms of JLPT, I was like an N4 when I went.
Okay.
Modern day N4. Yeah.
Okay.
I was like a solid N5. I've been taking Japanese for 4 years at NTSU.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I was an Italian minor.
So none?
I'd taken a couple years of Japanese in high school and had forgotten it all in the course of my Italian minor. So yeah, I went over there with a bit of Japanese on my resume, but no useful. I think it was like the whole Gasuki, maybe, and so someone taught me that, whatever Gasuki. And it like stuck in my head from like high school, and I was like, oh wait, I know that word. And so suddenly I was using that all the time, but for all intents and purposes,
I think that's why I got so many elementary schools, because there was like some Japanese ability needed there. And I think that I hear that from other people. If you show that you studied some Japanese, it didn't, your levels will get into elementary schools.
Yeah, because again, the elementary schools may not have a proper Japanese teacher of English. So to give instructions to the kids and everything, you'll need to do it in Japanese. Claire, what's your Japanese ability before leaving on the JET program?
Very minimal.
Had you taken classes in university?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't have any formal study of Japanese.
Okay. And here she's going. There you go.
A lot of ALTs don't have any.
Yeah. Great question. Great discussion. Other questions? Nope. Okay, we'll move from CIR. Support for JET program. One thing's that kind of hard to understand about JET is there's not like one central JET program office. There's all these different government offices. On this side, as an applicant, you'll work with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Then you get over there and you work with the Ministry of Education a lot for the educational standards. And Ministry of Internal Affairs, you've never heard of, but they help with the taxes and everything for JET salaries. CLAIR is a Japanese government organization that does sister cities and international exchange, but it's sort of like if there were a central JET program office, it's kind of, CLAIR is kind of the closest thing to it. So those are the different Japanese government offices. And you're actually employed by what's called a contracting organization, a local government. So my actual employer is not the JET program, it was Takamatsu City government. So Amanda, what was yours?
Uchiko Town International Association.
Chuo Town,
Uchiko Town.
Uchiko Town International Association, Thai.
I was the Mitoyo Kanonji Unified School District,
Okay, there you go.
which was a single school that was on the border of the two towns. They each had their own individual Board of Educations too, but it created some, technically I was housed under the Mitoyo group, but because I was part of this unique unified school district, my supervisor in the city government pretty much just forgot I was existing. So he was there to greet me at the airport when I arrived, and then I saw him I think 2 more times over the next 2 years. Whereas the other jets that were actually in Mitoyo, like, saw and heard a lot of them. But I mostly just followed my school's instructions.
The terrible thing about my contracting organization is that in Japanese it's Uchikocho Kokusai Koryu Kyokai, but for the first 6 months I would say Uchikocho Kokusai Kyoryu Kyokai, which is like dinosaur association.
Yeah.
They're like, Amanda.
It's not the dinosaur
Don't work for
association.
the dinosaur association.
Yeah, and Claire, you are Hiroshima Prefecture. Is your contract organization the prefecture government or Board of Education?
I've seen Board of Education on the email,
Yeah.
but I've really not gotten any kind of information about
Okay.
anything other than we read this paperwork, and then they sent me the log, like how to get onto the portal for learning Japanese, that program. Other than that, it's basically just been like, we'll be sending you more details shortly.
Yeah. That can't, because when
Handing it to you once you arrive.
you get these emails from people and you don't know who they are.
No, I'm just like,
Takamatsu
thank you so
City
much.
Board of Education, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know what that is, but once you get there, you're able to wrap your head
Yeah.
around it more.
Yeah, my supervisor spoke no English and would just plop everything into a really archaic version of Google Translate. And so I would get these emails that were in English that made absolutely no sense. And they'd be like two sentences long. So yeah, just kind of crossed my fingers and met the fella and
And hope.
never really had to deal with him again. So
That was the role of my CIR, is she helped translate all of the information that was coming back and forth.
Okay. Good discussion about that. AJET, the Association of Jets. Would anybody like to say anything about that? Like maybe Ty, because I would volunteer to take people to the hospital because I had a high Japanese ability. So this is like one of the support structures of JET, is the Association of Jets. That was something I did. Ty, I think you were involved more in like the social aspect of AJET.
And I think that's one of the great things about the JET program. When compared to, there are private companies that hire ALTs to go over there and work as well. The benefits aren't quite as good with the private companies, but also they don't do as much to connect folks. With AJET, you've got, in Kagawa when I was there, it was the smallest group of jets in the country. There were still about 35 of us in the prefecture, and we were all kind of connected together. So when you first get there, AJET's involved with a prefectural orientation. So within a couple weeks of arriving in Japan, you're going to be meeting all of these other jets. Some of them have been there for a year, 2, 3 years. You can get people's phone numbers. And from that point on, there's lots of opportunities to get together. They'll do more formal kind of events on weekends sometimes, but even just connecting with the other jets in your area to go grab a beer or something if you're going a little bit crazy because you haven't spoken to a native English speaker in 4 days, kind of thing. And so yeah, I was the social event coordinator for our prefectural AJET group. So we put together a lot of big events, a lot of kind of popular events in the prefecture. But we also worked with the other prefectures in Shikoku for the Shikoku block, which you'll see at the bottom, there's the block AJET groups. And so, there was a rugby tournament where each of the AJET prefectural groups would send a team to do it. I did not do that because I'm not good at sports. And then even beyond that, there's the national AJET, and the national AJET actually deals directly with Claire, with the Council of Local Authorities for International Relations, that organization, at the national level to advocate for JETs, to work with the government to find ways to improve the JET program to fix issues that folks are recognizing. Kind of like a toothless union or a school government.
Did you do anything with AJET, Amanda? Or did it impact your life? Like when you get there, you have like orientations and things like that for your prefecture, and AJET puts a lot of that on.
I went to a lot of events.
Yeah.
That's young.
And like sometimes we get questions like, oh, I'm a vegetarian, like what's it going to be like for me in Japan? It's like, I have no idea, F it, let's go yakiniku. I'm not a vegetarian, I can't answer that question, but the special interest groups can answer those questions about resources and what it's like to be a vegetarian in Japan.
And I'll say, like, another cool thing about the JET program when you're going over there, and it ties into AJET, is that you have all these people from all over the world, from all different walks of life, entirely different. But everyone's kind of made this decision to kind of go over there, jump in on this adventure. So you all have kind of that in common. And so you'll find that you have the ability to make loads of friends, like really close friends with people that you would otherwise never interact with. In America, even if you went to the same college, you probably half of these people you never even meet.
Yeah.
Whereas there, everyone just kind of, because maybe the scarcity, because there are fewer native English speakers, but also because everyone at least is of this mindset, whether they're going to Japan because they love anime and they want to engage in that side of the culture, or they're going to Japan because they want to experience new culture and use it as a base of travel and things like that. You do have the ability to make these kind of friends and kind of keep those friendships.
Yeah, I mean lifelong friends, and I was expecting a lot more weeaboo, like anime kids.
Yeah.
But it was a lot less than I thought.
Yeah, there were almost none in my prefecture.
Yeah.
There were 4. They got together and did stuff.
Yeah. Because I guess I am one of those kids, and I had trouble
Sorry, John.
making JET friends. Like I said, I had a checklist of Final Fantasy games.
I had very few.
See, that detracts from your ability to make friends when you're trying to play all these video games in your house all the time.
There was a time when like all the Jets were like, you've got to come out, so-and-so is coming into town. It's like, I just bought Tales of Symphonia on the GameCube that came out today, and I'm going to sit at my house with it all night because that's what I plan to do. I don't know so-and-so, I don't care about it. So, yeah. Japanese language course, they have a Japanese language course, real quick. I took it, did you guys take it? I didn't go as far as the translation course. But I recommend taking that, and you'll get more information about that when you're a JET. I'm going to try to move along for time's sake. Is that okay? Or do you have a question?
Is Claire only once you are a JET? Those online courses?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they cost anything?
Nope.
Okay.
And they're all online now.
Yeah,
It
you
used to be
can
when John and I were there, you had to mail.
mail a test in.
Okay.
But like one thing they don't tell you about, like, real quick, my supervisor came to me one day during the summer. I didn't have a lot going on other than speech contest, but he was like, John, you're eligible for this program to go to Osaka for 2 weeks and stay at a language school and just study Japanese intensively, and we'll treat it as work. You don't have to take time off, and you'll still get your salary and everything. So I got that through this course. And it's not something that's really out there, but it's something that really helped me with my Japanese study. So there are advantages to it, and you'll get more information throughout the JET training. Claire just went through that and is probably getting information about it now.
Yeah, I got this today's Saturday, like Wednesday, so I've not really been able to get on and look at it other than I clicked on the link and it took me to something that was completely in Japanese.
Huh.
I've worked every day since then, so I've not really had time to look any further into it. But
it's there for you.
I intend to do it.
Yeah. Do you have another question?
No.
Oh, okay. And then part of the cycle is once you go to JET, you then come back to your home country. Most people do. When you're a JET, you're sort of always a JET. You're a JET alum. So we've got the three of us here. We're JET alums. We're obviously involved in the JET Alumni Association, Music City. I just noticed it has the old logo on there. Oh well. Here's the current logo on my t-shirt. Represent. Amanda's the vice president right now. So is there anything you'd like to say about JET Alumni Association, Madam Vice President?
It's fantastic. When you come back, you should join it. It's how I found like all of my jobs when I came home. It's how I made a lot of my friends when I came home. I got back into the swing of living in the US. So I highly recommend connecting with us when you come back.
The Japanese government really does, they support the JET Alumni Associations. So the JET Alumni Associations all get a reasonable budget from the Japanese government to put on events to help promote Japanese culture, help train, camping
We're
trips,
having a cookout.
networking,
A networking cookout.
networking camping trips. But so it is that as a JET alumni, Japan is still invested.
Any questions about this, guys? Okay, we'll move with this workplace information. I think we've talked a lot about this. 1-year contract, possible to renew 1 year at a time, up to 5 years total. Were you aware of this?
Yeah, no, is that fairly common that people get their contract renewed?
Yeah, you have to do something really bad to not get it renewed.
Okay, so you pretty much have to just insult someone.
You have to get arrested for drugs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless there's some sort of budgetary issue
Okay.
with your school or with your town. I've heard of people who are in small towns in which
Positions
like,
get
we got to
cut.
shut down this school and move everyone over to the next school over because there's just not enough.
But they do give you the opportunity to be moved. Right.
Typically, so in a lot of cases they do.
Okay.
And there it might to some degree depend on your job performance. If they're shutting down your school and they didn't think you did a great job, then it makes it easy for them to say like, sorry, there's no position. Whereas typically, even if they're not super happy with your job, as long as you're doing an okay job and everything's staying the same in the school, they'll just kind of keep you around.
Yeah, I had a guy who lived in the same building with me. He's an example I put forth. He had a lot of tattoos and plugs in his ears, which is kind of an issue, but it's also kind of not a problem. And he was told, hey, you have to wear a long sleeve shirt all the time and cover up the tattoos. And it was hot during the summer, and he had a problem with that. So he sort of had like a bad attitude about that, and was sort of defiant and wouldn't follow those rules. And he's like, if I take my plugs out, they'll heal. And it wasn't so much the fact that he had tattoos and plugs, but his attitude was the real problem that sort of put him at odds with his school. So essentially his JTEs didn't like him, and they wouldn't invite him to come to classes. So he'd go to school all day and sit at his desk all day and teach like no classes for like weeks and months at a time. And then he would complain to our supervisor at City Hall, and then they'd have this big meeting with the school, and then they'd maybe invite him to like 1 or 2 classes, and then that problem would happen again. And this was like from right when he got there. And I was like, surely he's going to go home. Like everybody's unhappy. His schools don't like him. He's not happy. Like he's not going to renew. But then he wanted to renew, and they had that big discussion that like if he renews, you have to like put him in classes and stuff, and they're like, oh, okay. And then he renewed, and the problem just continued. So he was there 2 years and only went through a handful of classes. And that's a situation where I'm like that shouldn't have been a renewal of that contract, but it still happened. So that's, I don't know, from my experience, I feel like you have to be pretty extreme situations. Like that, it could be budget cuts and things like that. But normally if you wish to renew and you've performed average, or even slightly below average, you can get renewed. But that's why I want to do like a lot of the training and stuff, is to really encourage people to do their best. Because again, the problem was not his tattoos, it was his attitude about how to deal with it at the school. Moving on, well, I think we've talked about this day-to-day type stuff. Do you guys have more questions about that from what we talked about?
I don't think you guys kind of hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, a lot of people worry, because I've even been posting this on my social media, that Japanese teachers work more hours than teachers in any other developed nation in the world. That's sort of like a big article headline that's out there right now. So a lot of people freak out that they're going to have to work those long hours, but your JET contract really stipulates your hours. Like Ty said, he was done by 4 o'clock, and me too. Yeah.
But theoretically, down the line, if I get in, stay 5 years, and then hopefully get a visa to work there. I mean, Japan is one of those places where you end up dumping a lot of work hours into being a teacher.
Oh yeah, I mean I've worked
Like
at Japanese
you
companies.
stayed on as a teacher in Japan?
Yeah, that's basically what I'm hoping for.
It's so one of my buddies he got like a provisional teaching license in Japan, but he was a JET, and he was there for a couple more years until he got the license. I believe he said that he was one of 20 foreigners in the country to get it that year. So it's not necessarily like a career that I would suggest hanging too much.
Well, I guess ALT's not a career. Like I did meet a few people like that who were lifelong ALTs.
No. I don't mean being a lifelong ALT.
Okay.
Hopefully working my way to
Transition
be a teacher.
Yeah, and so he said that year, 2 years ago, he was one of 20 foreigners who was allowed to pass the test to become a teacher. But yeah, he works
In the public school system?
He actually he's in a private like Buddhist school, and
Okay.
so he wasn't able to find a job in the public school system, but he
Yeah.
was able to shift over to that one.
That's what I said, like if there were the opportunities, that's where it seemed it'd be more like private schools
Yeah,
and university level.
yeah, it's a lot easier, I think, to kind of transition into a university than the public school system.
Yeah.
I actually have a question because I've been doing a lot of reading online, and he made me kind of really think about it. How often do people really not choose to stay 5 years but get to? Like I've read a lot that most people, like it's uncommon to be a 4th or 5th year JET in your prefecture or wherever you are.
That may come from, I'm going to throw this idea out there and you guys agree with me or disagree with me as you see fit. But I feel there's like a magic number that's like about 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people who just did 1 or 2 years, they're like, man, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. But I know by the end of 3 years, I was like, man, I'm done with this. Like I'm sick of this. I'm ready to move on to that next stage of my life, to that next stage of my career. So it was like a 2.5 is like the sweet spot. If you're less than that, you wish you'd stay longer. If you're more than that, you wish, you're done with it. So to me, like that's sort of, it's not a career, and that emotional feeling behind it could be a big factor in why you don't see as many 4 and 5 year ALTs. And I don't know what you guys think about that.
I mean, I think it's different depending on, if you're doing a lot of personal growth and like cool career things while you're there, which I don't think is super common. It's kind of a redundant job, but if you are making big strides and doing a lot of cool stuff, maybe you're the president of AJET or something like that, then I think it's enriching to stay for that long. But most people, it gets repetitive after a couple of years, and then I only did 1 year, and my logic behind that was the longer you stay, the longer you're out of your home country mindset. So if you do want to move forward in your career, it's kind of like difficult. You're going to go through a weird time when you come back, so it's going to be harder the longer you stay.
So you did 1 year?
Yeah, and I went over kind of thinking I would do 2, because 1 year I didn't like the thought of just doing the minimum.
Mm-hmm.
But then, so I thought 2 seemed good, and I was having a great time, so I signed up for a 3rd year. But yeah, like John says, by about halfway through the 3rd year, I was like, okay, I feel like I'm good. Like, I was in a small town. If I'd been given the opportunity to like transfer and do another year in Tokyo or Osaka for like a new experience, I would have seriously considered that. But your first 6 months on JET, I feel like are just gonna like stick out in your mind, and you're gonna be able to remember individual days, and it's like you've really almost like extended your life because you have such enriched memories of it. But then by the time you're there for a couple of years, it all just starts blending together, and you're like, what did I do last month? I don't know, I guess I was teaching at schools, and but like eat some udon. But so yeah, I think a lot of people, it's mostly self-selection. Folks just deciding that they're ready.
Yeah. I mean, one of our friends, an alum here, she did 4 or 5 years, maybe even the 5. And I was like, wow, like you must have really loved it. She's like, nah, I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Eventually I figured out I wanted to go to grad school. And then once I'd figured that out, then I made that step. But it just took her, the 4 or 5 years to get there.
Yeah, most people stay 2 to 3 years is the most common.
It's a big question my mom had, like after that info session day a few weeks ago. She's like, why did no one stay any longer than 2 or 3 years? Why did they come home? I was like, I don't don't know, I'll ask.
Well, I mean, yeah, in most cases, it's not like you're an ALT for up to 5 years, and at that point, you're not able to be on the JET program anymore. So it's not like you work those 5 years and then you're a lieutenant of something. It's not like you're getting promoted up the ranks.
It's
I
the
saw
same
people
each
who
year.
went to go work for like MOFA or Claire
Yeah.
after doing the 5 years. That was
But
it.
you could also do that after 3 years if you've got the Japanese in your network.
I think a lot of people have goals, like I talked about at the training session, your goals for learning Japanese. So I knew I wanted to be JLPT level 1 certified, and then I was like pretty much there by the end of my 3rd year. So I had met my goal, it was just time to move on. And did you have the 4 and 5 year option when you were on JET?
Yeah.
You did? Okay. It was like a new thing when I was there, and you had to do elementary school exclusively to be a 4th and 5th year. But anyway, okay. But now it's different. You can be 5 years in high school or whatever. Okay, other questions about this? Because I know you guys wanted to get into the application process. Another great thing about JET, just real quick, salary is higher than the other ways to teach English in Japan. Your transportation is covered, so your flight to Japan, and in most cases your flight home. You've got a tax exemption, which Claire's been having some fun with, getting all that.
No, I've just never had to deal with the IRS before, and other
Now
than,
you love it, right?
Now you-
yeah, like, other than doing my taxes every year, well, you can have my spiel when we get into the application process and everything.
But you can, if you're an ALT, you can have 2 years income tax free. If you're an American ALT, okay, not a Canadian, not a CIR, American ALT, specific tax treaty between our 2 countries.
Oh wait, you mean American taxes?
Yeah, if you live abroad as an American and you earn less than like $100,000 a year in a foreign currency, you don't pay taxes to the US. And in Japan, because of this tax treaty, you won't pay income tax to Japan your first 2 years as a
Irish
JET.
ALTs are also the same.
Irish? I'm sorry, Ireland.
Sorry,
They're
just
all-
want to clarify. So
Yeah.
theoretically, 5 years. First 2 years you don't pay to Japan,
Income taxes.
and all 5 years you don't pay to the US.
As long as you're in less than 100.
Okay, because that was one of my biggest concerns. Was America's one of the only places where it's like, oh, you're living somewhere else, well, you still owe us.
You have to still file your tax return.
Okay.
You have to report how much you're earning in a foreign currency.
Okay.
And you have to spend 330 days or more out of the country. So if you're
Yeah.
So like most of the year.
Most of the
most of the year.
Yeah.
But if you came back for 2 1-month trips to the US during a year, then technically you owe taxes.
Okay.
You do still have to pay into the pension, and a little bit is taken out of your paycheck for health insurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to say mine came out, the pension and health insurance came out to about, is it like $600 a month? Does that sound right?
Yeah, but it's like coming out before you get your paycheck.
Yeah.
So just like your taxes or Social Security here, you don't really think about it.
I thought about it.
You did? Okay.
But
That's
I
it.
filed to get it back.
So I take it they pay you guys monthly, like in this?
Yeah.
Or like no fusion?
And yet you're part of Japan's national health insurance system, which is awesome. I went to the hospital at least every 2 months. We can talk about that later. Had food poisoning, had poison sumac all over my body, and got a cold every 2 months. So I'm very familiar with Japan's healthcare system, and it's great. That's all I'm going to say about it. Salary relative to the cost of living. I don't know. I've never seen this slide.
I created that one.
Okay, awesome.
So a quick question, do they
Yeah.
like help you find an apartment there or anything like that, or
Yeah,
how does
so
that whole living process work?
what happens is, did you guys have predecessors, everybody else here?
Mhm.
Okay, usually there's someone in your position before you,
Right.
your predecessor, and you're taking their job, so you also take their apartment.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of things. I actually did not have a predecessor. My position was a new position, but I still got there and they're like, all right, Johnsensei, here's your apartment, and it's already got furniture and stuff in it for you. So like I had to do none of that.
I take it that's like subsidized as well or something?
Yeah, I was paying $100 a month in rent. Like my Board of Education, the city paid the landlord, and then I would go and pay the city back the equivalent of about $100 a month. So my apartment was really about $400 a month, but I was only paying about 100 of that back to the city.
Now, just to point out though, you'll see on the survey that I'd given out in rent, people were reporting between 0 and 75,000
Okay.
yen
I
a
paid
month.
60,000.
So it
Which is
really
about
does
600. No.
differ.
Yeah.
Some places it's fully subsidized. That's pretty rare. Some places it's not at all subsidized. There's very little support. That's also on the rarer side. Most people are somewhere in between. Okay.
Mine was partially subsidized, about $300 was subsidized, but I had a 3-bedroom apartment.
But it's becoming more common. As you guys saw on that curve, they're adding positions on the JET program, so there are more people coming in without predecessors.
And they added a position in my town right after I left, so it was 2 the whole time I was there, and then now they have 3. So
And
it's interesting.
a lot of cases, from what I'm seeing from the JETs we sent the last couple of years, if they're going in without a predecessor, what they're doing is setting them up with a realtor to kind of pick your own apartment. They'll sponsor that apartment, so they help you get the apartment, but you choose the apartment yourself, and then it's on you to cover all the costs related.
And Tokyo is different, right?
Tokyo, I think it's exclusively that way, but even last year I noticed quite a few JETs that were getting new placements that, they were also getting that kind of Tokyo treatment, but here's a realtor, take something.
Yeah, other questions about salary? One thing I just like to say is I remember when I was the JET coordinator, we had someone in the departure orientation. She was like, my predecessor said I don't have an air conditioner. Like, what should I do? Should I buy an air conditioner? They're like $300 or $400. And one of the other panelists there just gave this brilliant answer. He was like, you make the money. Like, if you have the disposable income now, so you have to spend this much on an air conditioner and get this much quality of life out of it. Like, just spend the money because you have it to spend now. And that's what I tell people for the Japanese language training. Like, if you need to take a class in your town or buy a book or buy an electronic dictionary, like, you have the disposable income now. Just do it. And that won't be true for the rest of your life. I mean, I came back from JET 13 years ago now. It sounds horrible to say. And like... Like, I thought that was reality. I thought having more than $10,000 or $20,000 in my bank account in savings was reality, but it's
And not having to pay taxes.
And not having to pay taxes, yeah. But really, like, not having a car and not having to pay taxes, like, makes a huge difference in how much disposable income you have over there compared to life here. So that's enough about that, unless you have questions. Okay. Pay off loans $800 a month. Cool. I didn't know about this slide. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Living situations, I think we've talked about this. Every situation's different. Rural. Were you like considered rural, you think? Okay. Do you think you were
Yeah,
rural?
7,000 people in a town.
Yeah. I lived in the capital city next to the mall. 2 McDonald's in the mall, 1 Starbucks. I was set. I was awesome. Okay, so I was a city JET. Okay, placement, real quick, you can put 3 placement requests on your application where you'd like to go. Did you put any?
Yeah, I centered all of mine like Osaka.
Osaka?
Like the 2 right next to it.
Did you put any on the application and you ended up in Hiroshima? I put 1, Aichi Prefecture, because I'd studied abroad there and I wanted to be near Toyota. I thought that was a pretty good reason. I did not get it. How'd you guys do for placements?
I requested Ehime and was put in Kagawa.
I requested Ehime.
And you was putting Ehime? Okay, you like won the lottery.
I put 3. Ehime was
You
my
put-
3rd choice.
Ehime was your 3rd choice? Okay.
I had studied abroad in Fukushima, so I requested Sendai and Fukushima. And then Ehime because my teacher is from Ehime.
Okay. They do try to place you where you request, but it depends if there's positions open in
That was
Japan.
based on their needs and also
Yeah.
what they could accommodate as well. I brought a spouse with me, they have bigger houses.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of couples on married jets that went to Ehime because there's just one room. And I had Japanese ability, they had elementary school.
Yeah. Like I said, I taught in a rough school. I had a high Japanese ability. They're like, this school needs someone like him, so I got placed there.
So requesting a place and then the description box where it's like why you want this, that y'all don't think that influences either positive or negatively on your application?
I would say maybe I don't know. What do you have to say?
I would
I have
say
my
that
opinions.
It depends on how you go about it.
Yeah.
So to a certain degree, requesting places and having really good reasons why you want to go to those places, but also getting across your hope of living anywhere. Can show that you've done your research and that that you're really enthusiastic about it. Where at the same time, if you're requesting places and it's, if you request, Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto, that might actually, I don't think that it would have a negative effect during the first screening, but I could see interviewers judging you for it, thinking, oh, he's just named the 3 places that every foreigner knows in Japan. So, yeah, I wouldn't put too much concern one way or the other. It's not going to have too big of a swing, but.
Like I said, like I've even seen some that were like, I prefer cold weather or hot weather. And I like, as an interviewer, I've been like, okay, that's fine. Like that made sense. I didn't have to judge that person or evaluate that person positively or negatively because of that.
Where it can really look good is if there's a sister city relationship between your hometown and you're requesting to go to that sister city and you've been involved with sister cities, then that can start to look kind of nice because of this whole grassroots diplomacy, and it's like, oh, they're already part of this.
But at the same time, if you like Google what's my city's sister city and then put that on your application, thinking you get more bonus points for that when you don't have that sort of sincere connection to it, I think that insincerity will eventually come out at some point, whether during the interview or whatever.
Do you know if Murfreesboro has a sister city?
Smyrna does.
Yeah, I know Smyrna does, but so is there the sister city connection? Is there like something on my end here in America that I can participate in that and build that up in any way?
Like if Smyrna, which would be the closest, if they had an event, like a delegation coming from Japan or something, and maybe you could volunteer for. I'm involved with the Hendersonville sister city relationship, so I can speak to that. I don't know what Smyrna does. I know maybe the consulate has information, but
I think that they do an exchange every year.
Yeah.
But I don't think they do much beyond that.
Okay.
This is getting broadcast, and someone from Smyrna is going to hear it and be like, oh.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you Google it, maybe you can find their websites.
But yeah, so they might have events that I could volunteer for and build that up. Okay.
Yeah.
Or even just reaching out to them and being like, hey, like I'm interested in getting involved. Even if they don't have an event, you could, talk to them about an event to hold.
Like the Hendersonville people always need help with something. They have an event essentially every year.
Where's Hendersonville from?
North of here.
North of Nashville.
North of Nashville. Okay, yeah.
It's a bit of a
that might be a bit far for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm a good way south of Nashville.
Yeah. Okay. Talked about placement. Application process. You guys have waited patiently. Thank you. What are we talking about? Everybody here a U.S. citizen?
Yes.
Yep. Everybody here got a bachelor's degree? Yep. We talked about that. Good mental and physical health. Not lived in Japan before. Not been a jet. Not declined. Okay.
Sorry, and that's not lived in Japan for more than 6 out of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Not lived in Japan.
I was just checklisting these guys from what I know about them. What I know about them from the time we've been talking today. So I think everybody's good on all of this. And go get a passport if you don't have one. Like, just go do it. Go do it. It's one of those things you need. Okay, what makes a great jet? Amanda left. She was a great jet. I wanted to hear her perspective. I'm not going to read the slide points to you. What do we maybe want to ask or discuss about this? Because I have my opinions about what makes a great jet. We talked about flexibility, right? Okay. You could be asked to go to a class next period and you didn't do any prep work and you don't know what's going on and you got to roll with it. Like, you got to do it. There's no way around it. What else makes a great jet, real quick? Or what do you guys think, you attendees or you jet alum or you new jets? What makes Claire a great jet? Why is she going this year? And you can share your opinion. Somebody.
Well, I was very patient, but I also since I didn't get in the previous year, I took a lot of initiative doing things that I knew would strengthen my application for the second year.
Okay, so there's that word initiative. I like that one. Someone who shows initiative. What else?
I think confidence, self-confidence, especially when you're in front of middle schoolers, elementary schoolers. It's a little jarring, and you look weird compared to everyone else. So you have to be kind of self-assured and hold your own amongst the nasty little children.
I agree with you, and that's what I tell people about the interviews. Like if you fall apart in front of 3 interviewers, like a room of 40 Japanese kids is going to eat you alive. Like they will eat you. They will
Especially
devour
middle
you.
schoolers.
Yeah.
Vicious.
And I think that positive attitude and sense of humor that are up there are pretty key. I mean, you're going over to a foreign culture. You might be excited. You might think there are all these cool things to experience, and some of them are going to be really positive and really great. Some of them are not. But if you go at it with the right attitude, then the things that aren't great, you can just kind of look past or get over. But if you go with the wrong attitude, then you'll just start fixating on those things that you don't like, and the next thing you know, you're a big old lump of sad. And so I think it's good to know. I like to think that the people that we're selecting to send over there, for the most part at least, as best as we can gauge, are those with that positive attitude where we think that no matter what's coming their way, within reason, they're going to be able to handle it. They're going to be able to think outside the box and approach everything in a positive way.
You come across those kind of, I saw a few, not through the JET program, but teachers that were through other programs that were very negative Nancy's about everything.
Victim mentality.
Yeah. No one likes that person.
I did a YouTube video where I talked about that. Like the one trait I see of unsuccessful people on JET or unsuccessful applicants, a lot of them have that victim mentality that I can't do something because of some situation. So the attitude is everything in some ways, like Ty was saying. Like the guy who had the tattoos, again, the problem was the attitude. I didn't know I was teaching at a rough, disadvantaged school till I got there. And they're like, hey, Johnsensei, let's go visit your school where kids break windows and smoke and fight in the hallways and stuff. And I'm like, great. I embraced it. And I feel really lucky, even though there's legit violence and everything at that school. I feel really lucky and blessed to have had that experience, looking back on it, and to have contributed to that community, what I did while I was there.
Yeah, my advice, anytime something goes wrong, think about this, Claire. Just think, this is going to be a great story to tell, right? And then just start crafting that story in your head, and then that day's over, and jot that down.
Yeah.
Tell it as an anecdote sometime at a party. It'll be.
Yeah, I've got a lot of great broken window stories from that school. Okay, application timeline. Is this what you guys wanted to know about? You've been through it. Is this what you wanted to know about? Are you familiar with
I
it?
kind of got the general gist of it from the website.
This is last year's timeline.
This is last year's timeline. Can we talk about 2020?
2020 timeline won't be known until August.
Okay.
There are going to be some changes specifically for 2020 in light of the Olympics in the summertime, but that'll all come out in August or September.
Yeah.
Should we still expect the application deadline to be early November?
I would expect that.
Okay.
We'll see, but I don't think that they would shift that very much.
Okay.
And this has repeated for over 30-some years. When we do a lot of info sessions, I get a lot of basic questions about this. When's the application open? When the interview? And this hasn't changed in 30 years. So you can do what apparently you did, is look it up on the website, at any point. Any other questions or comments about that? Because I want to get
Follow JET and
on their social media. Yeah.
all sorts of other things on social media. It'll come up in your timeline. Hey, the application's going live.
Yeah. I will say that the JET USA office does a great job on social media, I think, of posting updates. Application is open, this form's available, things like that. Okay, here we go, application components. Now what do we want to do through this? Usually when I do this presentation, I go through each item one at a time. Do you guys want to do that? Or just ask questions?
I'm very familiar with.
You're very familiar with it?
I've kind of done basic research.
Done basic
There's maybe
research?
a few things that I'm kind of curious about.
Yeah. I think one thing that's important that we talked about a little before the presentation was the 2 letters of reference, how critical this is. So what I talked about is the longer you've known the recommender and the more they can speak to your work ethic and your abilities and your skills, the better. Does anybody want to add about, maybe Claire, you could share who did your recommendations as an example.
I had a professor do my one of my recommendations, and she was the same one that did it the year prior when I'd only known her for about a month or two. So I'd known her for a little over a year, and I made sure I kept her up to date with everything I was doing, like getting my certification, the job, and everything. And I used a manager at a restaurant that I had known for a little over a year as well.
Okay. So do you think when she knew you for 2 months and when she knew you for over a year, it sounds like a lot changed?
Yeah.
And you kept in communication with her?
She was
about
very
that?
happy to write the recommendation letter, but we did not have any, like, we didn't have a great relationship. Like, the only relationship was teacher-student, and then by the time we'd gotten back around to the second time, it was still the same kind of relationship, but a closer relationship, I would say.
What, if I may ask, what was your teacher of, like any particular?
English, like she
Just an English
teaching
teacher?
English as a second language.
And she's a JET alumni as well.
Okay. I'm just trying to think. Who
But I think, because what I saw one potential applicant do one time is he was volunteering at a Japanese Saturday school, a Japanese supplementary school, which is expat Japanese kids take science and math classes in Japanese, so when they go to Japan, when their family goes back to Japan, they're not so behind the rest of their classmates. It's that kind of a school. And that's great. Like, that's a great thing to be doing. He was volunteering there, and he's like, man, I'm going to get the principal of that school to write my recommendation, and I'm going to get him to write it in Japanese. And he thought that, like, the title of principal and the fact that it was in Japanese was, like, earning him bonus points. And I was like, does this principal, like, dictate your work duties or supervise you? Like, no, he's just a principal. He's just a figurehead. He gives the speeches and stuff. And then I got to talking to him, and I found like there's actually like a teacher at that school who is his supervisor and who he works with. And I was like, I think that's the better recommendation, because she can speak to who you really are. The principal is probably just going to ask her to write it and then sign it, or he's just going to make up what little he knows about you. So the person who can give the highest quality evaluation of your work and who you are is the person I think you should go with.
It also helps if the person that you're asking to write the letter isn't familiar with the JET program, to take a little bit of time and make them familiar. There was that slide earlier, the attributes of a good JET. Like, give them that list of attributes. You know, go over kind of what's expected on the program, go over what the job duties are, and that'll let the person who's writing the letter kind of specialize that letter to the job that they're writing for.
Give them plenty of time and meet with them
Yeah.
to discuss it. Don't just throw it at them.
Because it's pretty clear when someone who's writing a reference is totally unfamiliar with the JET program, has no idea what they're writing the reference for, and then that reference letter typically is a lot less effective because it's like they're speaking to attributes that you have that have nothing to do with the JET program. You know, like I use a great or a server or whatever it is that you have, and it's like and then they focus on your skills with food preparation or something like that, and you know
It's hard to relate it.
yeah, they need to be able to relate
Yeah.
to the job.
No, the sous chef was probably the better of my two, unfortunately.
I would take that brochure to him as well. That's what I did. Like this one,
Where
that's what I did.
I have one at home.
Yeah, that's what I did with the manager of
They're right
the restaurant, because she didn't know anything about this either.
I honestly I had a really good letter of recommendation from my Japanese teacher who had done the next program. Was like did mock interviews with me, just really great. And then the other teacher, unfortunately I got to see my folder when I got the job in Japan. I got to read my letters of recommendation, which not about. But my other teacher, she was like a figurehead of my program, organizational communication in TSU, just sent a generic letter of recommendation.
Yeah.
Great.
I've seen some that are like 2 sentences,
It was
2 or
like
3 sentences, yeah.
it was very
And it just doesn't give you
Really?
any information.
Wow.
John
And
took
that's
my
probably-
Japan 103 class and
Gotta be.
Yeah.
gotta be. Records indicate that he was never late.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But this wasn't about recommendations, but I had someone I interviewed one time, and her only work experience had been working at her local swimming pool, but she'd done it since high school. And she really very well tied that experience of like her moving up from like cleaning the pool to being a lifeguard to being a swim teacher, and now how she learned the teaching skills from swimming that she can apply to being an ALT. And so that's a situation where like even like maybe her supervisor at the pool who knew her since high school could maybe also support that narrative. Like I've watched her grow working at the pool, and she's now teaching. Here's the age group she teaches with. So that's something to think about too. Even if it's not necessarily teaching related, if it is a chef or something, how can they speak to your personal growth and your skills and abilities?
On that note, is distance, like in the past, something that's would be crucial? Like I just thought now, maybe one of my old Boy Scout leaders.
I would say someone after high school.
Okay, yeah, that's what
I don't
afraid
know
of.
what you other guys think about that.
I mean, unfortunately, I've just kind of been moving from place to place in short spurs of my life, so
Yeah.
I don't really have anyone that's
As I
a
could,
long
like,
distance.
all my students last application period had the same problem. They'd been out of school for a while, they'd been working for a while, they had moved, and they really struggled with who to get recommendations from. And I think that was part of the problem. So it is something, it's good that you're thinking about it now and working on it now. And for you, Kia, the same thing, like be
Somewhat.
thinking about
I
it.
mean, I'm not too sure about one of my old bosses. I've been a little bit out of contact with him.
Yeah,
But from what I can gather is that the duration of time known is one of the more important factors.
yeah. And what I told one of my other students, Dirkson, and maybe this could apply to you guys too, is he started volunteering at the Nashville Literacy Council.
I still need to do that.
Yeah, and that's what I've told him. I was like, man, just volunteer as much as you can and build a relationship with your supervisor in that volunteer experience to maybe a year from now, I talked to him a long time ago, a year from now, they can write you a really solid letter of recommendation for the volunteer work you've done. Okay, proof of graduation, I think you guys got that. The statement of purpose essay is, Kia, you could write it this weekend.
Yeah,
You could go ahead and start working on it, even though we're months away from the application process. Anybody who watches this online, if you take a Japanese class here at the center, I'll read your essay and give you feedback on it. I'm sorry I didn't know you, Claire. I would have been happy to read your essay and give you feedback when
Dr.
you.
Youngblood read it.
Oh, she did.
One thing that I would like to recommend for you guys, the list. Ty recommended this when I went to an info session. That list of words that they look for in a
Go
JET,
back to
you
it.
should find ways to tie that in. Maybe don't use every single one of them, but I would in your statement have examples showing these traits.
Yeah, because if you write your statement of purpose and the whole thesis of the statement of purpose is, I have interest in Japan. That's just one aspect
Yeah.
of a successful JET. They maybe want to see 2 or 3. Okay, here's an example of how I'm genuinely interested in Japan. Here's an example of how I've taken initiative in the past. And here's an example of how I've been flexible in my life. Just pick a few and show good, solid examples.
Yeah. One thing we did at the application workshop, which we tend to hold in the fall here at the Language Center, is we put the actual application question, the essay question, up on the board. I mean, it's quite a long, please describe what your interest in the JET program. It's a paragraph long question. And we didn't have as much time to do it as I wished we had, but we got different colored markers and we broke it down. And there's depending on how you look at it, there's 10 to 12 things they're asking for in that question. And if you just don't speak to that, you're not really giving the reviewer the information they need to evaluate you.
And here's the thing, I think I did do another revision of my essay after that, but I never got to show it to you. So,
okay.
But I believe I still have it somewhere.
Okay. What I would also recommend for you multi-time applicants, because I did interview someone who was on 3rd or higher time applying for the JET program while I was a JET coordinator. So I saw her application every year and I saw that her essay was the same every year. And I said, this shows that there's no growth. Like Claire described her growth from the 1st and 2nd time applying. Did you just use your same essay? You can say now.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I rewrote my essay and then I went back and looked at my first essay. Because my first essay I didn't feel was awful, but obviously I didn't get in, so I wasn't going to use that again.
Right.
But I would definitely write it and then look back.
Let's go back to, that's.
Oh, no,
you
I
want
was still
that?
writing
Oh,
that,
okay.
but no. So as your time as, I'm drawing a blank on the word, reviewer of applications. So you actually, did you just happen to remember names over and over? Or did you still have access to
I had access to the files. If I see the person the second time, I probably recognize their name. I know Ty Ty recognizes names. And, you know, the interviews are partial. I think you may get a different interviewer or something. But, again, yeah, they could still have access to those previous years.
Okay.
What I say, copy-pasting the same essay shows there's no growth between one application cycle and the other. And that's really, even people I've interviewed on the second or third time and said, no, they're still not ready for it. That's been the thought in my mind, is I've not seen significant personal growth between application periods to say this person's ready now.
I think if you're applying for a second or third year, you should expect at the interview time for hopefully an interviewer to ask you like what you've done in the last year to become a better applicant than the year before.
Yeah.
Because yeah, some people just seem to think, and there's obviously a small element of luck with anything.
Yeah.
You know, submitting the same application 2 years in a row, the second year might get through when the first year didn't because the people reviewing the application, you know, interpreted things slightly different and your score was a little bit higher. But, you know, when you see someone who, you know, just seems to throw their application every year without actually doing anything to become a better candidate, then, you know, to me, when I see that person on year 2 or 3, they've actually become a worse candidate because a portion of the program we're sending folks over to, you know, teach English, to share America with Japan, but also to learn about Japan and come back here and share Japan with the U.S. Because, you know, it is an expensive program, so we are looking on it for a return on investment. And if someone's gone a few years and they haven't accomplished anything new, then they're probably not going to be a great return on investment, you know, when they finish the JET program.
Right. Because you are kind of being evaluated, not just what you're going to do in 1 year, but your whole life as a JET alum.
Okay.
All right, other questions about that? Other things on here, proof of U.S. citizenship. That's why I say get the passport and just make a copy of it. That's the easiest. Real quick, physician's form. If you're being treated for any condition, take prescription medication. This is a separate form. You got to take it to your doctor, have them evaluate the condition and your fitness to perform on the JET program and sign off on it. If I get any of this wrong, Ty, let me know. FBI background check, anything in your criminal background, even if it was when you were a minor or you think it's expunged or you weren't charged, you still need to submit an FBI background check. The example I give is you can steal a bicycle when you're 10 years old and think that's all gone and behind you. It will show up on an FBI background check. Anytime you're arrested and your fingerprints are taken, it'll show up. So disclose everything. Do not try to hide anything. It just needs to be talked about up front. And any sort of proof of study abroad, if you have a teaching license. Did you get a teaching license for teaching in the public school system? No, okay. If you had,
Oh, really?
include that.
I was just an aide.
Just an aide, yeah, or a student teacher.
Okay.
If you have like a TESOL certification, so when you got the TESOL cert here, you included that in your application packet.
And if you, I mean, I think the intensive course is over, but I think you could still, maybe, I don't know.
Well, that's, yeah, our fall TESOL program, you can complete it skin of the teeth usually before the
I
applications
was about
due.
to say, I didn't use any of my teachers here as a reference, but with my certification, I got like a grade, but also like the skills that I've mastered, what I'm good at, and it was almost like a third recommendation letter because it was very nice.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know if everywhere does that, but I was like, I really liked that about this program as well.
But I could see that, like even as a reviewer, if I looked at that certification and it said how many hours and what all sorts of practice they've done, you know, that helps me also as a reviewer. JLPT too, Japanese Language Proficiency Test, like when I just see that in an application packet, that like I sort of immediately know what their Japanese ability is.
So I have two questions
Yeah.
about this subject. One about the JLPT. So the JLPT in Atlanta, as far as I know, happens in December. That's
Yep.
after the application process
Yeah.
closes.
Yeah.
So is there any way to like add that on later, or is that's something I'm just gonna have to mention if I get an interview?
In an interview, yeah.
Okay.
That's sort of an unfortunate timing thing.
And then another thing is about the TEFL or TESOL certification.
Mhm.
So I work 40 hours, and obviously, I'm not from the Tennessee area.
Right.
So how are the online TESOL stuff viewed? Because everything is all over the place with that stuff. And
Right.
there's like no governing accreditation body for that either.
Right.
So how does, like, what's valued more, like, within the JET program?
Well, like I said, on the application, it had are you TESOL certified, and you could check yes. And then if you check yes, you have under 100 hours of training or over 100 hours. Like we talked about, this program was over 100 hours. One of the online module things is obviously going to be less than 100 hours, and the over 100 hours is viewed more, but it's not that there's no value in the
Right.
under 100 hours. There is. And then so maybe that may be more like something we'd want to talk about in the interview, is what all did you learn from that? How do you see applying it as an ALT? That's what I think. Ty, what would?
Yeah, I mean,
What
I
would you
would say just being able to check the box saying you have the certificate, that helps for that initial phase of selection, the paper phase. By the time that you come to an interview, at least I personally, if I'm interviewing someone who has one of those certifications that they got online and they haven't done anything with it in the last 6 months, then I care not at all, because they haven't been using the skills, they haven't been developing, they've probably forgotten.
So I already planned on volunteering, like, within an organization in Atlanta that teaches Spanish speakers as a second language, because it's kind of the bigger program down there. So having the TESOL and having that experience would probably be a great
To
level up.
reinforce,
Yeah.
then you would start to look like a really solid candidate from the work that teachers do.
Yeah. And I would just say back it up to, one time I had someone I interviewed and they did maybe a less than 100-hour program through their university. And she came into the interview and we talked about what she learned. And she's like, yeah, I learned all about TPR and this and this. And then I was like, what does TPR stand for? And she was like, deer in the headlights. And I was like, total physical response. You know, I'm a language teacher myself. So if you're gonna name drop like that, be sure that you can back it up. But she was fine. She got selected. But I just thought it was like kind of one of those funny moments that she tried to drop this technical language teaching phrase. And I'm like, what does it stand for? But then she knew what it was and how to use it in the classroom. That, to me, that was what was more important than what it stands for. Okay, great. Other questions?
I mean, if you don't think you qualify for the Fisher Sims form or the FBI background check, and you go ahead and do it anyway. I mean, it's not going to be bad if it's like, well, why'd they do this? They don't need it. Yeah, I figured.
You wouldn't do it if you didn't need it.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have a criminal history, then don't
Okay.
do it.
Yeah.
You'll have to get one before you go on the JET program, so if you're selected.
Yeah.
But if you didn't need to turn in a background check and you turned it in, then you have to go ahead and pay and get a second one because it's been more than 6 months.
Oh, okay. So
So they'll exempt, if you had to get the background check as part of the application, then you don't have to go get a renewal.
Yeah.
But if you just included it without being asked, then it wouldn't be now by the time you actually do it.
But a speeding ticket they got waived
Speed
off
ticket.
would.
That
Okay,
wouldn't be an issue. No.
Yeah. There's even someone,
Reckless driving.
Yeah.
Right.
he had reckless driving, and he asked me about it. I was like, do it like just to be safe.
It
Like,
would.
better safe than sorry.
No, it wasn't.
But not a
classified as
speeding or
reckless.
parking ticket,
Okay.
no.
And if you're curious, you can always just pull a background check on yourself
But even like
before
if,
you apply.
but
just to
also
see.
with the physician's form, like if I did one anyway, and it was like
But
just to see what the physician.
They have a description. They have like a paragraph long description about what qualifies for you needing to do that.
Yeah,
So
like if you're not taking any medication, you don't have any like physical or mental issues, then there would be just wasting time doing it.
the problem is like people who are like being treated for depression and they're trying to hide it in the application, and then maybe they even get selected to the JET program and they're like, okay, now I have to import all my depression medications to Japan, and it's like, wait a minute. Like, you never talked about this at any point. That type of thing becomes a big problem. All right, what other questions do you have?
Did you had stepped out or did you talk about the official transcripts and the importance of that?
Yeah, why is that circled?
Yeah, that's the biggest reason why people have their applications disqualified. Is that there's something wrong with the transcripts. So if you went to a community college, go ahead and also get the transcripts from that community college. Make sure that they're actual official transcripts. And a lot of schools these days, they're doing kind of like digital transcripts. And those can be really problematic, even though these days all you're doing is uploading everything onto the website. If you get a digital transcript, you might want to consider printing it off, scanning it, and then uploading it onto the website, because a lot of the PDFs and the documents that you'll get from the university might require a password or be like timestamped so that they're only valid, they can only be open for a 1 month period or something. And if you upload that onto the website, then when they go to review it, and suddenly they can't open it because it asks for a password that they don't have, you're disqualified. They can't consider you for the program.
So I studied abroad, but my home institution has that records from that study abroad institution. Do I need to go and somehow hunt that down from the study abroad institution I went to?
No, you can just use it if
From
it's
the
on
home
your
institution? Yeah, okay.
But your study abroad office can probably provide that.
And better safe than
Because
sorry.
I think it's already on my transcript when I ordered one not too long ago.
If it lists the individual courses and the specific grades that
And
you
it
got,
says, like,
then you're fine. Yeah, if it says like study abroad 12 hours
And then it also says the
P or something, then that wouldn't
Okay.
work. But if it lists the actual classes
Okay.
and the grades you got those classes.
And yeah,
I'm trying to remember. Wasn't there an issue with either like with it having a seal or with it not having a seal on the print, the ones that you get printed from the universities? Wasn't there some? I
Well,
remember that
like-
last year.
a lot of times your universities might say, hey, you can log in and get your unofficial transcript and print it off on your printer. And what we're trying to say is that's not acceptable.
No, when I got mine too, I think Tennessee Tech tried doing something like that. I'm like, no, I need
Yeah,
this one. But yeah, I just remember talking about like the transcripts having like some sort of reflective seal that they typically like to use or whatever. I couldn't remember if that was a problem or if that's what you wanted.
I mean,
what
you
they
want
wanted.
the official transcript from
And
the
it'll
registrar
say
office.
like no copies, the
Yeah.
reflective,
Yes,
do
yeah.
not copy.
Now, they said that in the application. They were like, even if it says copy or whatever, when you upload it, that's okay.
Okay.
They said that in the application.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Okay.
Yeah. Because that kind of shows it was the official transcript if it was on there. But
I
Okay.
panicked when I saw that. I was trying to find it. It said do not copy.
But you bring up a good point, because a lot of applicants, I think, are facing that problem. And Ty, maybe you can speak to it better, where they go to the registrar's office and they're like, I need a transcript. And they're like, yeah, it's all digital now. Or you just log in and do it. You need, even if they like try to brush you off like that, you do need to be assertive and say, nope, I need an official transcript.
Yeah, it can't just be a screenshot from the student portal.
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like that, which people do try to turn in and they just don't get it.
And I would say too, like I think your transcript adequately covers your study abroad experience.
Okay.
So you might be okay, but just as a thought, when we talk about official transcripts or community colleges or study abroad, if the feeling in your heart is I'm trying to get out of doing more work,
Just go.
or just do it.
Okay.
A lot of people I saw like, man, my community college transcripts, I'd have to pay like $4 to get it mailed to me, and they're trying to skimp out on the $4. Pay the $4. Like if that's sort of the feeling that you're trying to get out of paying a few bucks or doing a little more effort, do the effort, pay the money. Like better safe than sorry. Question? Comment? Are we good on all this? Is this the last slide? Helpful hints? Have we talked a lot about this? The essay, if we could just beat that in more, how important that is. Have other people read it and give you feedback. I read yours at least once.
I think only once.
Only once?
I think yeah, and I had the other revision. Then we had the
Yeah.
meeting, and then I think I don't know. I never got to you the second time.
Well, you can come back to me.
Yeah.
You're still my student. So have other people read it. Remember, it is a job application. Anything else we'd like to add? Any helpful hints? Claire, you have any advice that we haven't talked about yet? Any other questions from you guys?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I understand that they also do a job fair after you're done with the JET program. So do you guys have any knowledge about that?
I never had any
They send you
experience.
to Osaka or Tokyo or something
Yeah, so there's typically
to pay for it.
returnee, what they call it, the JET returnee convention
About
or
to
something
return
like that,
to-
orientation
Yeah.
that would take place. When I did it was in Yokohama, and we were welcome to go to it. You had to pay your own transportation and stuff up to Yokohama in most cases. And they had different like graduate schools and employers and people kind of recruiting. A
Did
lot
any-
of that was like either graduate schools outside of Japan or job schools in Japan. If you're wanting to come back here and work, then a lot of it can just come down to networking. There are a lot of headhunting companies that deal specifically with people who speak Japanese or have Japan connections for working with Japanese companies. And so sending your CV off to those before you come back.
I think, like, to me, I never went to that career fair. Did any of us?
I did.
You did? Amanda did? I feel like the most value I've gotten in my career, especially when it comes to Japan-related stuff, is being involved with the JET Alumni Association, like Amanda was saying. And that's not lip service because we're at a JET event or anything. Like, when I came back from grad school, I was in a job I really hated, but I showed up in December of 2011 at the JET Alumni Association's annual meeting. I'm like, hey, I was a JET. This is a JET thing, right? Can I be here? Am I supposed to be here? They're like, yeah, come on. And then by May of 2012, I was treasurer of the organization. And by September of 2012, I was the JET program coordinator for 5 states. And so, like, I think a lot of us have had a kind of similar journey that I think career fairs are great, but I've gotten so much more out of that networking in the JET Alumni Association.
And so much of it depends on what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So you could potentially look at who's going to be at the career fair before deciding when to go, or a bunch of us just went kind of for fun up to Yokohama for this career fair. And I believe that our schools didn't make us take PTO to go up there. So we had to pay our own way, but we didn't have to use vacation days to do it. So it was a good excuse to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be a fun thing. Okay, we did it. We got through it. There's the information, JET Program USA. I think you guys have been on the site. There's the phone number. There's the email address.
What?
Do you want to say it's you?
It's all good.
It's all good? Okay.
They've heard you now.
That's where you can go for more information. Like we talked about, the social media for JET Program USA is really good. I even follow it. I'm not a JET applicant. I still follow it.
Facebook thinks I'm a JET applicant.
Yeah?
Because I get those targeted ads that are like, denied by the JET program, apply here. Leave me alone.
No, you need to like them so that you see them more.
Do you ever go in and like look at how Facebook categorizes you in the algorithm? You can like go in the settings and see that. And it has me as a Japanese American. Some of my ads come up in Japanese.
And supposedly they know everything about you.
Yeah. Look at me.
Yeah. Okay. So if my understanding is correct, that's the last slide. So we just want to make sure we're getting your guys' questions answered. So what questions do you have for us? You have a new JET leaving, 3 alumni. Talk about feelings. Anything.
Claire, do you have any questions?
Oh yeah. We'll help you, Claire. We're here.
Okay, actually, if we are offering.
Yeah.
So since I didn't fill out my form correctly to the IRS, I'm sure that they will be able to fix it. I read that they were fixing somebody's on the Facebook page. But if I get to Japan without it, is it a huge deal?
I arrived in Japan with that one.
Okay.
And you only spent 3 days in jail?
Like, it's not I'm gonna get like 1/4 of my paycheck when I should have originally gotten like so much of it. Like,
Typically, they'll withhold the taxes on your paycheck until you turn in the form, and then they should give you that money back once you turn in the form.
okay.
I was able to get mine in time. Like they said, okay, well, we really needed it when you arrived, but the very latest you can have it is like a week and a half from now. So I called the IRS and I was like, hey, when is this going to get here? And they were really nice. And they were like 2 days. So.
Did you have yours sent to like somebody here and then they sent it to you?
I think so.
I would recommend that because the whole time I
Yeah.
lived in Japan, they never got my address right on like my tax return information.
I believe that's what I did.
So, sorry, what, is there like an IRS issue that you end up coming across once you
It's
get
just like
accepted?
filling out forms once you get in.
To get exempted from having to pay the Japanese income tax, you have to turn in a form from the IRS saying that you're currently a resident of the U.S.
But
Okay.
you can call and ask for updates. I was very scared to do that because people are like, oh, the IRS are so mean, but I was able to get through to someone in like a few minutes and they told me the timeline. Cool.
Did you call them from Japan?
I did.
When you picked it up, was the first thing you said, like, I am calling from Japan?
Make it quick.
Yeah.
It might have also been because I was flying from Japan. It was like maybe 6 in the morning or something
Yeah.
in the U.S. So they were starting their day.
Oh, okay.
I got lucky.
I had to like call the state of West Virginia about my voter registration, and that was the first thing I said. Do not waste my time.
It's like $6 a minute.
Yeah. All right, what else? You had something?
I mean, if it was alright with you, I was gonna ask more about that, working with schools or whatever, like without a professional teaching degree.
So I was an ESL instructional aide. So I worked within the ESL department at my elementary school.
Okay.
And technically I did everything that the ESL teacher also did. I just I just wasn't the teacher exactly. Like it wasn't even like team teaching kind of thing. It was like I was on my own all day, like with my students, making my own lesson plans and everything.
Okay, so like you just had a job at a school as an aide.
Can't you be a substitute teacher in Davidson County, which is like a bachelor's degree? I don't know why I'm asking you.
You can do that in Kentucky.
A lot of times they'll ask like how many transcript hours you have of the subject you're going to substitute for.
Really?
I've gotten that, yeah.
Maybe you can just be a substitute teacher.
Yeah, I was thinking about, I don't know, I guess just going to Rutherford County schools and, I don't know, looking at that.
I mean, like we said, the Nashville Literacy Council, churches, YMCAs that offer ESL classes, they're always looking for volunteers.
I think they pay you like a cool $55 a day, so relevant.
I think in Davidson County it's like $100.
Is it?
Yeah.
Metro
Oh,
Atlanta's
man.
like 50 in some areas.
Is this up?
Yeah, sometimes.
And they pay you that day.
We have an international center in Bowling Green. With the way I could have been a teacher there, but financially I could not afford to volunteer like Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday during the day and not work those hours. So
Was your TESOL certification part of why you were accepted to be an aide? Or could like anybody roll in off the
I
street?
think it really helped. I don't know if they really cared that much that I actually knew what I was talking about when I talked about like what my ESL students needed.
Surely it helped.
I think it helped. It
It didn't hurt.
definitely helped me get the job for sure because I had more qualifications than like other people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you
Yeah.
said it's the Nashville Literacy Council or
Yeah.
Center? Council?
I think council. I've had a couple students go through that and get some experience. Stephen, the departing jet, when we did this 2 years ago, that's where he went through. He was kind of like Claire's situation. He got denied for jet, and then he went to his professor, and he's like, what can I do? And then he took the TESOL certification here and Japanese classes here and was volunteering at the Literacy Council. So he, I think Claire did the same thing, sort of like identified where their weak spots were in their application and like, how do I correct these problems right here and put the time and energy into it.
I mean, yeah, just teaching experience and I guess volunteer work
Can you
are my two weak
still teach
spots.
here?
For,
Are they still hiring like people to teach English at the second language?
I don't really know. I can't
I mean,
speak to it. I think, the priority is given to the people who are in the TESOL program.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I can't speak to
I
that.
haven't done test. I'm hoping. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing TESOL this fall.
Okay.
But yeah.
Should we go ahead and end the
Yeah,
recording?
let's do it. Thank you for watching, if you did.
One viewer.